This is the Decision Point with Anand Nanduri. Anand, the draft is upon us. We're here. We're talking. We're excited. We're anxious. All name a feeling. We probably have it.
Tired.
Right? Tired. Aroused. Like there's all kinds of feelings, man. Why am I feeling so many things?
Because we're 1 week out, Matt. Because we're 1 week out from being there. You will be there. I will be there. Theo will be there. We'll have, all the whole cast of characters. We're getting the gang back together. Larky will be there. Cody will be there. We got the whole squad.
It's kind of unbelievable. I just had a meeting this morning with Cody Carpentier, Theo Greminger, Maddie Kiwoom, pretty much like the main table. So we have a football table. So basically, just if you're new, we go to the NFL draft every year. We went in Vegas and we went to Kansas City. This is our big corporate retreat, right? We got a big house. It's actually a wedding venue. We got the whole grocery list ready. Theo needs to have his steel cut oatmeal, and Theo's talking about all the stuff he needed. He needed plain yogurt. And he was and Maddie and Cody are just like, what the fuck? And then Cody's just like, I just want Cheez-Its, right? Just make sure there's boxes and boxes of Cheez-Its and I'm good. Right?
Simple, man.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm making chili. And then Theo was like, well, we need this for the chili. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not making the chili. I guess you're making the chili. Right? That's the thing. That's the problem. When we're in one of these meetings and you inject too many ideas, you end up being the one that's doing it.
And,
right?
and we're
like,
missing
I
Billy.
guess you're doing the chili then. I guess that makes more sense if you have so many opinions about if it's going to be pinto beans, versus kidney beans, and how much garlic. Okay, then you're doing it then. That's cool. That's totally fine. So we're going to be there. We're going to be covering not only every draft pick live, but also having shows before and after. It's just nonstop rat-a-tat-tat. It's you're going to be there. I mean, we're going to have people on the ground. We have a setup on Radio Row. So we're going to have a hardline internet connection. We're going to have a better internet. The one big complaint from previous years is that when we go live to the actual draft facility, behind the scenes, behind the curtain, and where interviews are happening and all that, the reception wasn't great. Right? That was the big complaint. So we fixed that. Thank you to the NFL for setting us up on Radio Row. We're going to be on Radio Row. Bradley will be there. Jason Allwine from Wake and Take you'll be there. So Seth Dewald will be there. So we have great correspondence. It'll be at the draft. But then back at the house, we have a multiple studios set up. One is like the football desk, which is Cody and Maddie and Alex Dunlap, right? And then you've got the fantasy desk, which is more like Theo and Dario and, fantasy people. And then you have like a couch with like me and people just hanging out, with our takes, man. And we're going to be just providing the best live coverage of that event on the internet. That's our goal, and that's what we had very, very positive reviews from previous weeks that we've been there. But I think this is gonna blow away last year, which blew away the year before, and we've tried a bunch of things, right? We tried dialing in from outside the facility, but the problem is it's so busy there. You cannot just like jump into a stream from your phone from the draft, because the cell service with so many people connecting to towers is so bad. So that's the big fix. Thank you again to the NFL. Thank you to you and Theo, Cody, all the planners. We've got a big if anyone's going to be there, feel free to reach out to me, podfather@rotorwonderworld.com. We're going to be at the Stockridge Bowling Alley. We're going to be at the Stockridge Bowling Alley on Wednesday for the whole afternoon. Karaoke, taco bar, bowling. There's going to be a microphone with the karaoke, which means I might have to get up there and do a little I'm probably gonna go full Wolf of Wall Street with the microphone. That's probably what's gonna happen. I don't know if it's gonna be
leaving.
Hopefully no goldfish lose their lives, but it's gonna be fun, and we're gonna and for the second half of that event, we're gonna open it up to anyone that's in the neighborhood that loves the show, want to hang out with the guys, stop by, let me know. We'll give you the directions, the time. Podfather at rotorunderworld.com, putting it out there. Come see us. Come hang out. We'll have a blast. I love bowling too. Like, I love bowling. I love tacos, and I love, of course, karaoke. My favorite karaoke song, my go-to karaoke song, is "Wanted Dead or Alive" by Bon Jovi. What about you?
I'm a journeyman.
Ooh,
we can hit some "Don't Stop Believing."
Don't stop believing. Yeah, and one of my favorite Beavis and Butthead episodes, my favorite Beavis and Butthead episode is when they broke down the Journey song, but the one where they're outside at the docks and they're drumming against the metal warehouse. Do you remember that? Separate Ways was the name of the song. Yeah, so if anyone wants to, if you just want to go to YouTube and type in Beavis and Butthead Separate Ways, it's the best. I mean, it's basically the 90s. Like, that's my life. If you want to know who I am, anyone want to know? You want to know who I am? You want to know? You want to know who I am? Go to YouTube, type in Beavis and Butthead Separate Ways. That's who I am. That's me. That's it.
We're gonna have every year that show is my favorite thing that we do all year, without question. I mean, it's just one, you get all the same people under the same spot, right? Like last year, one of the highlights of I think that draft weekend was we get home Thursday night. Everybody's exhausted from draft coverage. Being on camera for 3 hours, no matter who you are, is exhausting. And then, you add in all the cut-ins and the cutouts. You're shaking hands with the media. You're saying hey to all the players who got drafted. You're excited to see all of your media friends that you haven't seen in years. And then, we get home, and I get home to a half-wasted Alex Dunlap. Love the guy to death. And he's like, the Rams need to trade up for Will Levis. I'm like, bro, they're taking Steve Avila. Please, God, if they do anything, like, please let them take Steve Avila. Because I remember, if you remember, Will Levis was still sitting there, first pick of the second round because day one had gone by. And if I remember right, I don't even think he came back to the green room for day two because I think he was there. It was one of those things where every so often there's a player that everybody, and I mean everybody, is wrong about. Malik Willis comes to mind. Then you had Will Levis, where we're all like, hey, like, someone's going to take a stab at him in round one. Nope. With Willis, they didn't even take a stab at him in round two. So, I mean, the fun part of this whole exercise with the draft, and, as we go through as media members, as, whatever you want to call us, the fun of this is you have no idea. Until the draft card is turned in, you have no idea. There are things we feel very sure about. Caleb won to Chicago feels very certain. But
really,
I mean, until the card gets turned in, what do we know? Minus 10,000 at a sports book tells you a lot.
I know. He's trying to do everything to sabotage it, though. Right? Not everything. Right? Not everything. He's not going full John Elway. He's not even taking
visits with other teams, Matt.
He's not going full John Elway. Okay.
He's not even taking visits, man.
I know. It's like, oh, he's a diva. Well, I mean, no. A diva would be John Elway with the Colts. That was diva behavior. Now that I'm going way back in the time machine. The millennials are like, who? What? And like, so once upon a time, John Elway was the diva of the divas in the NFL draft, and he skipped a year. He just said no thanks, and he skipped the whole draft and said, no, you guys can draft me next year. So that's another level. So that's not happening here. I looked at the numbers, and man, Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels had strikingly similar final seasons. Jayden Daniels is just more athletic. He's more of a big play threat in every way. I hate changing my position on a player on no news, no real news, right? at the last minute, that's what 90% of the time it's a mistake, right? We all know this. Overthinking it when you change your position at the very last moment and you regret it. And now I find myself doing it with both quarterback and wide receiver, where it's like, I'm not going to overthink this. It's Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, until now I'm like going, I think it's Jayden Daniels and Malik Neighbors. I can't believe I'm doing it. But I could see it. Matt. I could absolutely see it.
I think if you look at range of outcomes, there are, we look at what outcome actually happened with a player. Nobody talks about what happens if Josh Allen busts. Nobody talks about what happens if Justin Herbert busts, because we've seen them do it. Now it's all retroactively, we loved them as prospects. You loved them? Tua was drafted before him. How many quarterbacks went before Josh Allen? What are we talking about here? You can really, really like a player and want them to go 1 overall, and they have a 50th percentile outcome to their career, and someone else has a 99th percentile outcome to their career. You look at a Patrick Mahomes. Is he Patrick Mahomes? Like, if he goes somewhere other than Kansas City, doesn't get Andy Reid, doesn't get a chance to build on that rookie year where he got that final start and you saw some of the explosiveness and unbelievable arm talent that he's got. If he goes somewhere else, does he look like the same player? So much of it is situation dependent. And a big part of the reason people are so excited about Caleb Williams is you very rarely get a number 1 overall pick that gets to go to a situation this good. I mean, you don't typically, your 1 overall doesn't have a number 1 receiver like a DJ Moore, doesn't have a 2 in Keenan Allen, doesn't have a proven veteran tight end in Cole Kmet, hasn't invested in an offensive line like this yet. I mean, the Bears are not a horrible team. They're not your classic 2-15 team that's sitting here at 1 overall. This is Carolina's pick. This pick should be to help Bryce Young. And instead, because the Bears absolutely fleeced Carolina in that trade last year, this is probably the best situation a number 1 overall pick has ever gone to. And if you look at it in that context, Caleb Williams is set up to succeed in a way that a number 1 overall pick really never has been. Trevor inherited a mess. Andrew Luck carried those Colts teams. Those weren't great Colts teams. Andrew Luck carried those Colts teams. You look at all of the 1 overalls going all the way back, Jared Goff, right? Like these guys,
that Rams team with Jeff Fisher was an atrocity.
Like, you look at all of these number 1 overall picks, you go as far back as you want with a number 1 overall quarterback. No one has ever been set up to succeed in the manner that Caleb Williams is. And I think that...
Do you know Peyton Manning's rookie year record?
Most interceptions?
No. What do you know his win-loss record as a rookie?
Wasn't it like 2-14? Something like that?
3-13.
Yeah.
3-13. Jameis Winston, right? That was one of the better situations.
Yeah.
Right? To get paired with Mike Williams and to get paired with Mike Evans, that was good. Right? Mike Williams, by the way, just so everybody knows, that misstatement was not about Chargers Mike Williams. Didn't a Mike Williams get drafted by the Buccaneers?
I think there was a Mike Williams that was a Buccaneer.
I believe the Buccaneers at one point, there were 3 Mike Williams. Just so everybody knows, there were 3 Mike Williams wide receivers in the last 20 years. And I believe the Bucs drafted one of them. Right. And one went to the Lions. The USC Mike Williams, who went to the Lions, was perhaps the most catastrophic bust in the history of the wide receiver position. It's up there.
I want to know what happened to Justin Blackmon. It breaks my heart because the guy that we saw in the NFL versus the guy we saw in college, they're not even comparable. I think that's one of those all-time, like, what if everything had worked out and we get like an 80th percentile career out of Justin Blackmon? We'd be talking about him as ridiculous. I mean, for anybody that did not get to watch Justin Blackmon at Oklahoma State, you don't even have to watch everything. Just go back and watch Justin Blackmon highlights. Dude was absolutely worthy of where the Jags drafted him. He just catastrophically busted. And the really interesting part about bringing up Detroit Mike Williams is they drafted Roy Williams in the first round, and then they drafted Mike Williams in the first round. And then, the Raiders did him a favor and took Jamarcus Russell, so some guy named Calvin Johnson walked through the door.
Well, no, but that was all those picks were an effort to make up for the Charles Rogers draft pick.
Charles Rogers, and then there was Joey Harrington before him.
But I'm just saying the wide receiver position, the fact that Matt Millen went back to the well one more time, he was like one last job, like Heat. Like we're going back one this is it. This is the last time. This is the last time I'm drafting a first-round wide receiver. Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, I'm hard to miss on that guy.
Yes. Because before that, they had a really nice wide receiver duo. They had Johnny Morton and Herman Moore. So they had a nice XZ tandem there in Detroit, and then they just had a desert of years in the first round where they just could not get their guy, and then they just said, you know what? We may be snake bitten, but we're going to keep going back to it right here. The Patriots are now the most snake bitten at wide receiver. If you draft late, if you go late, if you're undrafted or you're in the 7th round like Julian Edelman, then you'll be a hit, right? Or if they trade for you like Wes Welker or Randy Moss, then you're a hit. But if they draft you in the top 100, you're toast. Patriots draft a wide receiver, you're toast. Until you're not, until you're Calvin Johnson. So we'll see what happens. It would be fun to see the Patriots go all offense for once, to go quarterback in the first round and then a wide receiver in the second round. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, if Drake May is there, I can't believe I'm the one beating the Drake May drum. I never thought of myself as like a Drake May truther, but the takes on him are just wild. I mean, the entire offense left from 22 to 23, and they asked him to carry a team by himself, and the results are what they are. But going back to wide receiver for a second, I want everybody to know that the most common Marvin Harrison draft comp that I see is AJ Green. And I need everybody that's younger that watches this show to go back and watch AJ Green at Georgia, because he was a really good NFL player. But what he was at Georgia was a absolute bona fide superstar. How much of a superstar? They drafted him when Julio Jones was available. That's how good AJ Green was. Now,
wait a second. We have some sad breaking news. This is not good, man. This is not good. Number 19, Bucks Mike Williams was found dead in December of 2023. So 4 months ago, I missed this. I did not know this. I apologize that I didn't mention it earlier. But Bucks Mike Williams was found dead, and he died from dental hygiene issues. He was a young man, and he was hit in the head 2 weeks earlier while working at a construction site. And something happened that was related to that: concussion, dental damage, that somehow cascaded and ultimately led to his death.
Oh my God.
That is tragic. That is
an
absolute tragedy.
I had no idea. Wow. Yeah. It's like you talk about between him and then the Vincent Jackson situation.
What happened with Vincent Jackson?
Vincent Jackson was found passed away. I don't remember what the exact.
No.
Yeah.
Chargers Vincent Jackson, who then also went to the Buccaneers?
Yeah. This was I think it was a last year story, if I remember right.
Oh my God. I can't keep up with. Jeez. And the other sad part is he was a professional football player that then had to go work construction.
Again, NFL careers. We try to tell people this all the time. 3.5 to 4 years is the average. Like, making it to the end of your rookie deal is an accomplishment in the NFL. Getting a second contract is a huge deal. We talk about stars all the time, but like guy 52 on the roster is not making life-changing money forever. That's just it's not happening, and it's why you see a guy like Belichick just went on McAfee, so it's stuck in my head now. But you see a guy like a Matthew Slater that sticks on special teams forever and has a 10, 12-year NFL career.
Yeah.
That's really solid money for a lifetime. But if you only make that money for 2 or 3 years, the other problem that you have as athletes, and I think a bigger part of why this NIL era is interesting and, people staying to get their degrees is also interesting. At some point, you have to accept that if you're not a good enough football player, you're going to have to find another career because they're, just being a football player forever. If you're guy 50 on an NFL roster and you have a 3 to 4 year career, you can try the UFL, you can try the CFL and, maybe extend out your career a little bit. But at some point, like that's not life-changing money. That's not what Travis Kelce makes at, $15-20 million a year. You're not making that. And it's a broader discussion about, how much are we giving these players in terms of health insurance long-term? How much are we really protecting them from themselves and these violent hits? Because they are incentivized. If you're guy 50 on the roster, you are incentivized to hide that you have a concussion or hide that you have an injury so that you can make it longer and longer and longer in the league to have lifetime health insurance. I think it's something that we don't talk about a lot here or, isn't widely discussed, period. But the league makes enough money that we can take care of veteran players and guys that got injured more than we do. And I mean, it's just, you see so many of these tragic stories about CTE that we didn't know about. In the 80s, it was just dudes being dudes. I mean, we knew that there was head trauma. That's not new. But the manner in which we talk about it, the way that it's studied now, is drastically different than, how it was talked about even a decade ago, even 15 years ago. It was rub some dirt on it, get back out there. And now you have, concussion protocol and guys on the sidelines that are telling you, no, you took a hit to the head and you don't pass my test, you don't get to go back out there. And they're independent of these teams. I think, hopefully it just continues to get better and better as we progress. But, there are still issues with how we treat a lot of these injuries, how we treat head trauma. So I hope that gets better as well.
And when you look at the disparity between what the top quarterbacks make versus most players, it is in the extreme. The NFL has extreme haves and have-nots, right?
Yeah.
Extreme income disparity between the top 10 players versus all these other guys.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're talking about Caleb Williams. At least one of these quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, one of them is going to break out. One of them is going to get one of those $400-500 million contracts at some point. Now, explain to me this. In the chat, there's a question. What if Caleb pulled the Diva card out right after the draft and tells Chicago that he doesn't want to play for them? What happens then?
Well, they've drafted the rights to the player. So truly, Caleb Williams does not have a contract when, he gets drafted by the Bears. There is an established NFLPA and NFL agreed to contract that he basically has to stay within the structure of, but he doesn't have a contract until he signs. And so you hear about this from time to time where you have players holding out in a mini camp because they want more guarantees or, they hold out. And there are several examples of the last first round pick being signed being, 2 months after draft day as they're, trying to negotiate a deal that makes more sense for them, even though it's within the structure of something else. Functionally, he's not a Bear until he signs. That's the truth of it. I have never seen anything like that happen. I really don't know what would happen. Just because we've never seen it. It would be something. Because again, he's not a Bear until he signs his contract. That's kind of how it is. And, being the presumptive number 1 overall pick, I'm sure they've already discussed whatever it is that he wants. And I'm sure they'll give it to him. Caleb Williams is going number 1 overall. And I think once you have a number 1 overall pick that is as in step with the team as Caleb has seemed to be with the Bears, they've already probably hammered out contract details. And I think he would be one of the first people to sign. Whereas someone like, you go back to 2004 when Eli Manning came out and, they're like, you're not a Charger. Like, we're not.
That's right.
You can go up there all you want. But they already had a deal done with the Giants taking Rivers. So I mean, he went up there. If I remember right, I think he had a Chargers jersey. I vaguely remember the fact that he was handed a Chargers jersey with Manning on the back of it, and him and his dad were basically like, no, we're not doing this for any reason. And so he came back out with a Giants jersey, which is just even funnier. But yeah, I mean, the 101 is still the 101, regardless of what happens there. Like, the value of Caleb Williams does not change, even if he decides not to sign the contract, which I just don't see happening for any reason. But yeah, you do have players that will hold out for a while in order to increase their guaranteed at signing, in order to increase, little things here and there, add injury guarantees, whatever the case may be, into their contract.
Now, we had R.C. Fisher on the Mind of Mansion show, and he insists that the top 4 quarterbacks in last year's draft are all better than the quarterbacks in this draft. We're talking about Anthony Richardson. We're talking about C.J. Stroud. We're even talking about Will Levis. He believes the last year was a very strong quarterback class, and this year's quarterback class is mostly fraudulent.
If you think Will Levis is a better quarterback than Caleb Williams, I have what did you watch? What did you watch? Because what I watched was an Alex Grinch defense. All my Buckeyes know this. It's dark times in our past. Alex Grinch is possibly the worst defensive coordinator in America. And what blood oath Lincoln Riley had him swear, or whatever happened there. I have no idea how Lincoln Riley continued to employ this man, because every Oklahoma team that he was on, every Ohio State defense, he coordinated 1 year at Ohio State, a couple years at Oklahoma, and then USC's 2 years with Lincoln Riley. There was never a time where his defense even remotely resembled a unit that could win a national title. And if you have the quarterback talent that Lincoln Riley gets at any program, that's totally unacceptable. I mean, I believe that his year at Ohio State was Dwayne Haskins' year. If you remember, he needed to score 52 to beat Maryland. He needed 52 to beat Maryland with Ohio State's roster.
Where is this going?
My question to you is, who is going to win football games? And the question that I get all the time is, well, Caleb's not a winner because of last year. Who is winning football games when your defense is giving up 50? Pat didn't do it at Texas Tech. Are we going to hold that against them?
Those were fun games to watch, though. Those USC games were fun.
USC games were awesome to watch because both teams were in it. Thanks, Alex Grinch. Caleb does some shit with a football that no one's seen in 30 years. And here's Alex like, oh, we'll just give him a quick 6 for fun. Like, please do not miss me with the Caleb is not a winner narrative. Okay? If that's the case, let's draft J.J. McCarthy number 1 overall. That's your winner.
Well, that's an interesting position to take. I mean, I fear that the quarterbacks that went to the Senior Bowl this year performed poorly, underwhelmed. One of them was Bo Nix, who had similar statistics in the same conference to Caleb Williams.
I mean, if you want to look at box score stats, we can do the box score watching all day long. That's a part of it, but it's also why you have guys like Justin Herbert who profiled as a pretty good prospect to a very good prospect, and some people saw it and some people didn't.
Yeah, but at the Senior Bowl, he was a revelation. Not Bo Nix, man. Not Bo Nix.
Yeah, but comparing somebody to Bo Nix because Bo Nix's offense at Oregon asked him to dump the ball off on screens 35% of the time, whereas Caleb's running for his life, behind one of the worst offensive lines for a Power 5 team in America. Like, what are we doing here? Like, yes, I understand their stats look similar. The context provides the clarity there. Bo Nix is absolutely not what Caleb Williams is.
If it were me and I were the Bears, I would consider trading down again, and I would just cash in a whole bunch more draft picks, right? I would talk to the Vikings, like, what do you want to move up to 1? Let's do this. Let's make it happen. So I would look for another treasure trove, and I'd want to be drafting in the first round with 3 picks for the next 3 years. Right, I'd want to have 20 picks in the draft, amortized out over many seasons. This would make me very happy, and then I would just draft Michael Penix. because there's a lot of uncertainty with these quarterbacks, right? You never know, right? We talked about a lot of first-round picks. Jared Goff was a bust until he wasn't, right? Jameis Winston was a bust, right? Carson Wentz was a bust. Marcus Mariota was a bust. There's just so many busts, right? And so, if it's not crazy, I just want to say it's not crazy. I think that if I were in that position, knowing that the fan base, the equity holders, the players, everyone would want to go with quarterback and like, hey, it's time to start winning now, I would be under immense pressure and I would probably cave. Like, I feel like I have a lot of courage, but I think in that particular situation, I would cave and I'd push the button on Caleb Williams. I would, but not in my dream scenario, because in my dream scenario, whenever I have the 101, I always trade down, always, just on principle, based on how much teams are willing to overpay for that particular draft pick. On principle, that's what I would do if I didn't have any consequences. I didn't have anyone to answer to. But that's not how the NFL works, right? Even Belichick in his prime had to answer to Robert Kraft. At least he had to, even if he could do whatever he wanted, he had to at least answer questions, right? And there were places he couldn't go. Not really. He could do whatever he wanted. But, I mean, that short of that, prime Seahawks years, right? Pete Carroll. I'm just thinking of a few of the more dictatorial strongman coaches that we've had that also can influence. Yeah, that can influence the front office. I want to make sure I put it out there that the optimal move is almost never using the 101 yourself.
Yeah, it's very rare that pick pays off what you could have gotten. And the draft is, again, it's about value and opportunity cost. The reason that having this 101 is so valuable versus last year's 101 is last year's 101 was CJ Stroud, who we thought would be very good. He exceeded even our expectations. I would say that if we're looking at range of outcomes, CJ's already hit his 90th percentile outcome and is still going. When you look at what Caleb's, like, if we're grading basically everybody on what is their 50th,
but he didn't even get drafted at the 101. He should have been the 101.
Right. And so, like, you had you basically had the rights at the 101 to draft a CJ Stroud or an Anthony Richardson or a Bryce Young, right? But if you're looking at them across as like, what does their 50th percentile outcome look like? Caleb's 50th percentile outcome is better than any of their 50th percentile.
Well, now you're officially flying in the face of everything that R.C. Fisher believes. So it would be, we should have a debate. We should arrange an R.C. Fisher, Anand Nanduri debate in the next couple months. I think that would be fun. I'll moderate it. I think it'd be great. Because he said basically the exact opposite of what you're saying. Well, now, what I think here's the other thing that you could do is if you did trade down, you can always trade back up. What I'd like to do is trade back. Let's say dream scenario, I'm the Bears. Okay, I trade with the Vikings. Let's just say the Vikings find all the assets they need to make the move in the couch cushions. They do it. Okay. So now I'm at the Vikings pick, and then I can watch the board play out. Okay. So if I'm sitting there at the Vikings pick at 11, so I'm sitting at 11. If I see a McCarthy, if I see a Drake May slip a couple picks, then I can make a move. This gives me the flexibility to then make efficient moves and capitalize on draft day inefficiencies in real time. When you're picking at the 101, you lose that ability, right? You set the market. You don't want to be the market maker. You want to take advantage of the inefficiencies in the market. And when you're sitting at 11, that's when you're perfectly perched to do that.
When you look at, the current proliferating thought at the moment is that quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4. Someone trades to 4 with Arizona to take McCarthy. That's right now. Most people believe that that's what will happen. if that's the case, in the same way that we told you Arizona holds all the cards in last year's draft, the Chargers then would hold all the cards in this year's draft. Because if Arizona moves out of 104, there are really only 2 teams, maybe 3 if you add the Raiders, that make sense to go up there and make that draft pick. It's the Giants at 6. It's the Vikings at 11.
Is it more likely it's the Vikings, though?
I don't know. I don't. The question that I have is, I personally believe, I do think Kevin O'Connell, and I do think that they really like J.J. McCarthy. I do. But I think that their goal is to get Drake May. If you look at everything, right? Like if you just watched all of these guys play, Drake May has the highest ceiling that's not Caleb Williams. And yes, the floor does matter. The floor does matter.
Well, I disagree with that. It's Jayden Daniels has the highest ceiling of all these guys. Period.
Jayden Daniels
just like last year, the guy with the highest ceiling was Anthony Richardson. It wasn't even C.J. Stroud. It still isn't. The guy from the 2023 class, the quarterback with the highest ceiling, still to this day is not C.J. Stroud. To this day, it's Anthony Richardson.
I agree. I don't disagree. I disagree with you on Jayden Daniels. I disagree with you on Jayden Daniels. If you watch him, the man runs like he runs into contact. He thinks he's Cam Newton size. He's going to get flattened by NFL linebackers.
Okay, so he was watching too much Anthony Richardson tape.
Yeah, dude. It's the I am the biggest, fastest dude out here. Okay, I promise you're not when NFL linebackers are bearing down on you. That is a totally different breed of athlete. Like what we're talking about is, yeah, true. Very true.
All right. I mean, they're in the chat explaining to me why the Bears won't trade out of that pick. I know that. I just said that. I said that even if I were the GM, knowing that the optimal move would be to trade out, I wouldn't be able to trade out for all the reasons the people in the chat are laying out. It's very weird. It's like, are you listening to the show? Are you not listening? How are you engaging with the show? I admitted it. I admitted it that I am susceptible to the pressures of other stakeholders. That I wouldn't be the most courageous picker of players that's ever been in the draft. That's what would be required to do that. So I also believe that Arizona, they do really want to be able to choose their own adventure at wide receiver, and sliding just back to 6 is going to be very exciting for them. That's what they want. They're going to be nervous to slide back all the way to 11. I know that the Vikings would have to give a lot more, but at some point when you've been analyzing all these players and you just get so excited, I'm positive that there's a cadre of people in Arizona that are either all in on Harrison or Neighbors at this point. And then so for the GM to then approach them and be like, hey guys, we're actually going to clear out of this. We're getting out of the top 10. They would be so heartbroken. They would be so, I just don't think he could. That's another instance where I just don't think he could do it. I don't think that they could pass on both Neighbors and Harrison, knowing that they really are a star wide receiver away from making a push into the playoffs.
Go back to last year's draft. Just pull up the draft board because I want to throw something, just throw something at you. Let's say they trade out with Minnesota. Let's say they trade out with Minnesota.
Thank you. Dylan Gibson in the chat says confirmed coward GM Matt Kelly. Yes. Yes. And if different. If anyone says that I would be able to look all the fans and the equity holders and the teammates and my coworkers and peers in the front office and the coaching staff, I'm going to look at all of them and say, nah, to a quarterback from the 101. Good luck. Good luck to you, and you're a liar.
Yeah, there's no shot.
I'm honest. I just happen to be the most honest broker in the history of fantasy football and NFL podcasting.
Is that a Colin Cowherd quote? I'm pretty sure he calls himself America's honesty broker.
Is that right?
I don't know if you want to dabble in that.
No, I don't want to do that.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't want to be Colin Cowherd. That's bad, man.
But if you're Arizona and you move, let's say you go from 104 to 111, you trade with the Vikings. go look at last year's draft board. They may move right back to 105 with the Chargers and take whoever they want.
Why can't they just move around? That's the thing, right? I mean, I already answered my own question. Because what I would say to those people, if I'm the general manager, is it still Steve Keem or is it someone else?
Monty Austinfort.
Austinfort, that's right. Keem's gone. God. Barely knew you, Steve. Now it's Monty. So if you're Monty, that's old news, right? Monty took over last year.
Yeah.
So, I knew that. So Monty, just a better name in general. Austinfort, even better than Monty. It's hard to get better than Monty, but then you throw Austinfort in there. So Austinfort is just going to go to his scouts and say, "Hey, don't worry, wink, wink. We're getting back into the top 10. Don't worry. We're gonna hit. Like I said, we're gonna perch here at 11, and maybe that guy that we talked about is not Harrison, and it's not Neighbors. It's actually Odunze. Maybe that's who it is. They're out west. Why not? So they're like, okay, we went and saw Odunze play at Arizona, and we are convinced that he's the greatest thing, and we met his dad and his family, and he's, his attitude, and then they just, and he's like, don't worry, we're gonna get Odunze. We're gonna be at 11. We might have to move up a couple. We're gonna maybe let people make mistakes in front of us. Who's to say that Odunze doesn't fall to 11? You can see it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at Neighbors, Odunze after Marv, the way that those three fall will be super interesting, along with Joe Alt, along with in that same realm. There's a lot of smoke about Atlanta liking Dallas Turner at 8. There's, the Bears have all kinds of avenues that they could go at 9, including trading back a pick like they did a year before. If the Jets really want Brock Bowers, which, some are reporting that they do, there's, one of the three could, I mean, I don't think Marv will be there, but like one of Neighbors or Odunze, if the board falls right for you, could potentially be there at 11. And that's what so much of the interesting forecasting that you have to do with draft prep is what is the doomsday scenario? Because last year we had a lot of the order right. The problem was nobody wanted Will Levis in round 1. And so you look at this whole board, like everybody's, you look at mine, you could look at Cody's, you could look at Matt Miller, whoever you want your draft coverage from. You look at anybody's board.
Matty Kiwoom. Our guy is Matty Kiwoom, and his big board is Malik Neighbors at top. It's on PlayerProfiler.com. Go to NFL Draft and go to the NFL Draft big board, and you can see Caleb Williams, Malik Neighbors. So he's, more bullish on Neighbors than Harrison. And he has Joe Alt at number 3. So, yeah, Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu, one of those two guys, you would think, even though they've cleared out the wide receiver room, the thinking is because Jim Harbaugh is, a meat and potatoes coach, but also drinks milk, right? Doesn't he love milk?
He does love milk.
So he loves meat potatoes with milk. And what's funny is that was my meal growing up. My meal growing up was we would have a piece of chicken, baked potato, and some vegetable, green beans, and milk. That was my, growing up on the farm, that was my meal most nights. So I absolutely identify with Jim Harbaugh, and I understand why he's going to go Joe Alt. I can't imagine him not going. I mean, they could. It's an interesting pick. Like, that's the big wild card pick, right? What happens with the Cardinals? Who trades up with the Cardinals? That's super interesting. What does Jim Harbaugh do? People think they know, but no one really knows.
Can we not do this Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell thing again, please? That's what's happening with the Chargers. Is the entire internet's on fire. This is, do you take Marvin Harrison? Do you take Joe Alt? Is Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase all over again? Like, stop. They're both great. Figure it out. Who cares? Right? Like, one will inevitably be better for the team than the other. And they know better than we would.
The tackle is. The Penei Sewell would be. So it's Penei Sewell. The move, just so we... part of our job here on this show is to explain to people the right move. And the right move in that situation is the left tackle. It's going to be there for 10 years, and you can build around. The left tackle, I mean, the problem is with there was the Great American Bust, right? He was did he go to the Colts? He was an offensive tackle, and he's one of the great busts in NFL draft history. But he wasn't he allegedly just juiced up on steroids, and then he went top 3 in the NFL draft.
I don't remember who you're talking about.
Right, he's one of the. But I just think that's because that was the greatest draft bust of all time, is viewed as an offensive lineman, I believe. And then we had that one year. Remember, we had that one year where Eric Fisher. It was a really
Luke Jokel. Yeah.
It was a very weak skill position year, like maybe the weakest year for skill position, and some good but not great tackles all went top 3.
Yeah.
And Eric Fisher was the best, and they had others that just totally busted. So we've got to the chat is, see, this is the thing. This would have been a great situation for the chat to come in and be helpful, to thunder in, right? And this is basically the left tackle version of Todd Marinovich.
No, don't do that.
No, it is. It's a guy. And I think I want to make sure I say allegedly was on steroids. So we're gonna have to look it up. We're gonna look it up right now because the chat is not being helpful. Because the chat is mostly young people. I'm older than most people in the chat, so that I would, I would know who this is. They wouldn't. They're like, I don't even know who you're talking about. And I think he went to the Colts.
Are we the old guys now?
Or he Tony Mandarich. It was Tony Mandarich. He either went to the Colts or he went to the Packers. It was one of the two. He was selected with the 2nd overall pick by the Green Bay Packers, and then he went on and played for the Colts. So, ding, ding, ding. Wow, can I give myself a correct? That was really good.
What a
that was good that I called both teams that he played for. Wow. Really good. Really good stuff. Yeah, so I think that, you remember Tony Mandarich, and the Sports Illustrated called him the NFL's incredible bust. That's what they called him. And then they also, what was funny was as a double entendre, because they had him in a shirt where his pecs were bulging out. So then they called him the Great American Bust. That was back when Sports Illustrated was a live business. And it was very well respected, and they were doing clever things, and it was a big deal. Once upon a time, kids, Sports Illustrated was a very big deal. Now there's another. There was from the vault. Tony Mandarich is very, very sorry. See, that's the thing, man. Don't apologize. Take the money. Whatever. You busted. That's okay. But I think that forever tainted offensive line. Right? It's such a stable position to draft top 10 tackle. That is such a valuable pick. If you're not going to trade out of that pick and you're actually going to push the button and you're going between tackle and offensive line, you go tackle and wide receiver. You go tackle every time. I don't care if it's Jamar Chase. I mean, as long as there's Penny Sewell there, as long as there's a Joe Alt there. Okay, if there's a season where there isn't one of these can't miss franchise tackles, well then okay. Then, make your move at wide receiver. But if there's anything close to what you would consider a franchise left tackle, then they impact the game on every play. They protect your $300 million franchise quarterback. They make every other player on the offensive line's job easier. The value they bring to the organization is so much more than a perimeter player like a wide receiver or a cornerback.
I think it's a twofold question. The question that you're asking, if you're the Chargers, if you're functionally asking the question, what is your grade on those two players? Right? Because we had Chase and Sewell very close. Like on our end, from when we did the work, we had them very close. I personally have Harrison significantly above Alt. That's the only reason that I would hesitate to push the button. If they're comparable, if they're very comparable to you grade-wise, then you take the tackle. If you think that there is a significant separation, that's when you take the best player available. So I think that's the caveat that needs to be added here. Sewell was viewed as this almost, and we use this word way too much, so I'm not going to use generational, but he was viewed as a cornerstone player on the offensive line, whether you wanted to use him. And the versatility of a Sewell was a big part of why he was so valuable. And Chase was seen as a guy who, yes, game-breaking talent, hadn't played in a year, if you remember, just did not at all play his junior year, just opted out of an entire season. Yeah.
Wasn't that a COVID thing, though?
It was a COVID thing, but, you have to take that into consideration. He hasn't been hit in a year.
Right.
Like that's part of the evaluation. And, to me, obviously, Marv is my guy, but if I have a grade on Alt that is there, right, that is in that level of we have a cornerstone franchise tackle or a cornerstone franchise receiver, between the two, to me, the tackle is more valuable if the grades are the same, which we had on Sewell and Chase, which is why we landed on Sewell when we went through that. I think if your grade on Marv or Neighbors, if you have Neighbors as your one, is significantly higher than Joe Alt, you take the best player available. Because at this point, if you're the Chargers, how often are you going to be drafting in the top 5 with Justin Herbert as your quarterback? If you draft in the top 5 again, the plan has failed. Something has gone horribly wrong. Or Justin Herbert's gotten injured, which is also the plan failing. So either way.
Joe Alt is 6'8". Joe Alt is 322 now.
Love him.
Joe Alt's 322 now. Joe Alt's going to be 340.
I love his game.
In his third year, when Joe Alt's going for his next contract, which could rival top quarterback contracts, anyway, he's going to be 340, right, with quick feet. So, I mean, you can't get better than that. I'm in love with Joe Alt. I believe that because we both drank so much milk as children, that Jim Harbaugh also loves Joe Alt. So that's my getting in the head of Jim Harbaugh, like everyone's doing right now. What is Jim Harbaugh thinking? What is he doing? How is he feeling? I'm telling you, as a big, young milk drinker, it's got to be Joe Alt.
I think the really interesting piece of that is if you extrapolate it out around and you look at tackle and then wide receiver in the second versus wide receiver and then tackle in the second, how you grade those out, I think the second round and what you can find there probably has a lot to do with what you do in round 1 too.
No, the other thing is the position scarcity around the NFL. Wide receiver is becoming plentiful. It's like a bounty, right? It's easy to find receivers. The Bears just signed Keenan Allen. I mean, come on, man.
32-year-old Keenan Allen.
It does still, though. Like, it's not like that is available. You can't just sign a 32-year-old tackle and expect anything out of it. You're expecting it's a dart throw at best, where we know what you're getting from Keenan Allen. This is a big difference. So in the chat, they're asking, this year is deep at tackle and wide receiver, just trade back. And my response to that is yes. Yes, when it comes to wide receiver. If you already have 2 bookend tackles, if you're Houston, then sure, right? If you're in that position. Most teams aren't in that position like Houston is. And so they need a tackle. And there's Fashanu and there's Joe Alt, right? And then there is and you can look at our grades, like I said, on the NFL draft big board, and then there's a gap, right? And then there's a pretty significant gap down to Troy Fautanu, right? And
Troy Fautanu's awesome player.
Fontenot. Okay, Fontenot. That sounds like a Las Vegas casino. So yes, so the Fontainebleau. No, that's a Miami. That's a Miami hotel.
Sounds it's like now a Miami in Vegas hotel. Too. There's a Vegas one too now.
There's a Vegas. There we go. I'm right again. I'm right. I'm stumbling into right answers nonstop on this show.
Run with me for a second. Let's say that the Cardinals stick and pick at 4, and it's Marvin Harrison Jr. And the Chargers now are at 5, and Minnesota still wants J.J. McCarthy. They're moving to 11. Like that's what you do, because the difference between Alt and Fashanu, or even if you decide to take Troy, or if you decide to take Taliesin Fuaga, whoever it is that you decide, you can even move back from 11 again if you don't feel like they're worthy of selection at 11. The difference between the draft capital that you would acquire for a, in theory, JJ McCarthy is just different than it would be if someone is trading up for a Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think they're at the mercy somewhat of what Arizona does at 4. Because if Arizona leaves the door open for someone to trade up to 5 for McCarthy, I think that's when the Chargers really need to consider trading down. And I think they would, because what you're going to get, there is always, we talk about this every year, there's always a premium on drafting a quarterback. There's a premium in terms of asset value. There's a premium in terms of draft capital. Everything involved in taking a quarterback is heightened. So if they can dangle the carrot of J.J. McCarthy being there at 5, as we know there are certain teams that love him, I think that's when they trade back. So they're kind of hoping that Arizona at 4 sticks and picks Marvin Harrison Jr. and takes that decision totally out of their hands, and they can trade back and do whatever the hell they want.
So, for example, just to complete the response to the question, if you're at 7 and you're the Titans, the answer is not, tackle's so deep we should trade back. I'm telling you, you need to draft Fashanu. Because there's no such thing as tackle depth. It doesn't exist. It's fake, right? It's a total fallacy. It doesn't exist, right? There's a tackle that's good later in the first round, but every year the tackle pool, the elite tackle pool, ends at pick 15. And once in a while, you're going to have a player fall to you, right? Like what happened with the Chargers a couple
Christian
of years ago.
Darrisaw.
Right. Well, okay, that's the one exception. Okay, you had to do it to me, didn't you?
I did.
You couldn't let it go. You had to give me the one. There was one time, and we circled him that year, by the way. You and I circled him.
We did.
There was one time with Christian Darrisaw where he did fall into the early 20s. Late teens, early 20s for Christian Darrisaw.
I think he was pick 20.
Can we just do that? Do we have another? Can we? Because, I'm on. Who's been on more fire than me? I mean, that is incredible. I'm just throwing picks and everything. I mean, I'm not fully aware of every player that has passed away, unfortunately. But other than that, I remember picks and most players, with the one exception of Tony Mandrich, which the chat was no help on. So the bottom line is, you are absolutely incentivized to make that pick there. And there's no way Tampa knew that the Raiders were going to go Ruggs and then a franchise left tackle was just going to slip right to them and Tom Brady at pick 14. No, I mean, that just doesn't happen.
No, I know they tried to move up for him too.
Exactly. So it's like, okay, that is not like
that's a dream.
Yeah, that's the thing. Normally, at other positions, I say wait and see. Right, you need a wide receiver. That's okay. You can trade back into the teens, and then you can wait and see, and maybe move up, maybe not. Maybe hope a Odunze falls to you. Maybe not. Right, but the idea that you would just, you wait around and then, elite cornerstone left tackle just falls to you, a Tristan Wirfs who can jump out of a pool. There was tape of Tristan Wirfs jumping out of a pool, right? And do you remember the tape from the Northwestern weight room? Now the disgraced Northwestern weight room, we know, but pre-scandal Northwestern weight room, I mean, it was pretty special. I mean, it was all right there in front of you. All you had to do was be paying attention how these guys can somehow fall into the teens. I think it's going to happen here and there, right? Rashawn Slater just sitting there, and you're like, wait, you didn't see the tape of him benching, 700 pounds, 700 times, right? Meanwhile, there was like a whole hazing incident happening, right? Out of focus of the camera, but regardless, no, he was actually there was a rookie player under the bench that he was laying on. You didn't see it. It was just below the line of the camera. So anyway, as a Northwestern grad, I'm allowed to make fun of Northwestern, by the way.
I'm staring at Evanston right now.
Exactly. I'm allowed. Okay. So thank you. And also a former member of the equipment staff of the football team. So
Go Wildcats.
That whole scandal infuriated me on many levels. But it's just fun. We can now make fun of the fact that Rashawn Slater was putting up 700 pounds 700 times while laying on top of some freshman, which would have been just funny, and also farting at the same time, allegedly. None of that actually happened, but it would be funny to think about, and it is also a funny notion that you think you can get one of those guys in the teens. Every couple years, maybe that guy leaks in there, but I'm looking at the board right now, and I just don't see how Fashanu makes it past the Titans. So you just need to get that whole notion out of your head and push the button. If he's there, you push the button.
You can go ahead and lock it in. If Joe Alt is there at 7 for Tennessee, they're taking him.
I mean, you can go. I don't think so. You can. I've already said that Harbaugh is picking Alt because of the milk.
What if he trades out?
Could trade out.
If they trade out and it's McCarthy, then the Giants are taking Neighbors at 6. Alt's going to be there at 7 for Tennessee.
So I just got a DM from Theo, and he asked me if we ran the rookie guide ad, the promo for the rookie guide. And then sadly, I have to tell him that we have not yet run a promo in the show. So we are going to get back to NFL draft talk after this. It is NFL draft season, and the wait is over. The Player Profiler Rookie Guide is available. It's live on the site now. Right there in the nav bar, click on the 2024 Rookie Guide to download it. It's so comprehensive. We're ranking and writing up more players than anybody. And this year, we're providing athleticism scores. We're doubling the number of advanced stats on each player profile. And guess who's back? Cody Carpentier. But it's not just him. It's Theo. It's Matty Kiwoom. It's John Lobb. And the Undroppables. All coming together to provide their composite rankings. And this year we're adding Superflex Tight End Premium because that's now become such a popular format. So get those composite ranks, get the write-ups, the comps, the stats and metrics you want. If you already have Dynasty Lux, you already have it. But if you don't, it's right there in the nav bar on playerprofiler.com. It's $20. It's not the first. It's not the most expensive, but it is the best. Pretty good. Pretty good. So back to the draft. That's all we care about right now and all we're going to be talking about for the next week. 10 days. I'm excited. And again, our coverage of day 3, just to alleviate any concerns, we're no longer going to be getting into the weeds on defensive guys drafted in day 3. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in guests like an Alan Seslowski, and we're going to be talking fantasy while a lot of defensive guys and offensive linemen get drafted in day 3. We're going to have the best possible use of this audience's time on day 3. Because we're going to have a lot of fantasy impact to talk about. So we have a whole list of guests. Theo has said we're going to bring in actual guests. It's not enough we have 18 people in this house, and we are bringing air mattresses. Memphis is bringing air. Memphis is going to be there. I mentioned Josh Larkey, right? Josh Larkey.
Larkey, oh my God,
Larkey's coming back. I told you that. Larkey's coming back. Man, he's going to be on the fantasy desk. Dario and Larkey together again, and the analytics team. I'm so excited. So we've got people driving in. There's young, old, everybody. It's gonna be very exciting, and it is just it it makes me feel really good. I'm not going to cry or anything, but it makes me feel really good to know that, that Cody, Josh, they leave, they go other places. They're doing great, but they have this sort of appreciation of Player Profiler where they're like, I'll drop everything and I'll go to the draft. Just say the word. You tell me, you say it, and I'm there. And that's just one of those things where it's like, damn. Right?
Yeah.
Damn. Like, like what you don't understand is those guys would lay down in traffic for him. That's something you don't understand with you and your professor, with your, with your Harvard degree. Those guys would lay down in traffic for them, right? That's the difference, man. That's real friendship, right? It's just, I wish if I could do like a Robin Williams impression again. R.I.P. That was that one hurt. I was paying attention for that particular passing. And I, if I could quote Good Will Hunting, I would there better. I did my best to hack it up really, really bad. And I apologize to Robin and everyone for having basically the worst possible use of his Good Will Hunting performance. And now we're seeing down votes in the chat. This is when things are going badly, right? That we're seeing down votes. And now we're also out of the top 5 in the top 10. And so you think J.J. McCarthy goes where?
I personally think that he's going to go in the top 5, whether it's someone trading with Arizona or someone trading with the Chargers. There's just too much smoke there. And I think the absolute floor there is if the Giants are sitting there at 6, Daniel Jones is not the answer. And I think this is ignorant to throw out there that, it would be ignorant to throw this out there without saying Daniel Jones has injury guarantees in his contract where I don't know if they could play him in 2024, where, they're on the hook for so much money if he gets hurt that if you have another option at QB, I wouldn't even put him out there. That's just where I'm at personally. I don't know if the Giants brass feels the same way, but that's just me. If I'm, head coach GM, like I'm not throwing him out there. Why?
No?
So I can pay him $45 million in 2025. Hard pass, bro. Peace. We out. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
boy.
No. I am not doing any portion of that. So if you're the Giants and you have to trot him out there, so be it. But if I have another option, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. That contract was bad when it was signed. It was wishful thinking, which rarely, if ever, works out in our league. We extend a guy early and we hope, that he breaks out. No. That's not what this was. This was a guy that, Daboll came in and sprinkled pixie dust on. He had one passable year. We're not even going to call it great. He had one passable year. And you handed him 4 years, $160 million if that contract goes all the way through. Now, we obviously know that it will not. But, that's the weird part about quarterback is there are times where it's better to not have one than to have one that you're paying. If you're the Raiders, you're probably in a better spot QB-wise than the Giants are. You at least know you don't have a guy. You're not paying a guy. So the Giants are paying someone $40 million to take quarterback snaps this year. That is crazy.
Okay.
That is
okay. So let's just predict the first round. Okay.
Yeah.
Chicago Bears with the first pick overall take Caleb Williams. Washington Commanders select Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels. New England Patriots select
Drake May.
Arizona Cardinals trade back 2 spots with the New York Giants, so the Giants can select J.J. McCarthy. So J.J. McCarthy is going to be a Giant, according to you.
Yep.
Okay. Los Angeles Chargers, based on Jim Harbaugh's drinking of milk, will draft Joe Alt.
Which leaves Marvin
with
Harrison.
With the 6th overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals select
Marvin Harrison Jr.
I think in the same draft slot as Jamar Chase, which would be just apropos perfect. With the 7th pick, the Tennessee Titans select
Olu Fashanu.
And then we have the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons have moves to make. I believe that they are trading out of this pick because Brock Bowers is going to be there. And my sense is that a team that wants tight end is going to move up to 8 or 9 to get Brock Bowers, no?
I would think that someone's moving up for Neighbors or Odunze, even over Bowers.
Even over Bowers?
Even over Bowers, correct.
Okay. And you don't see Atlanta selecting Neighbors?
No, if Atlanta's there at 8, most people believe that the pick will be Dallas Turner, the edge from Alabama.
What?
Mm-hmm.
An Alabama edge rusher?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I know it worked out with Will Anderson. I get it.
I don't think Dallas Turner is Will Anderson. I don't think
but he's not Will Anderson, man. I mean, that's like how many underwhelming defensive players have come from Alabama that were drafted in the first round and should have gone second or third round. That's just
I'm still haunted by D. Milliner. I still don't understand how that's
it's a thing, man. It's a thing. So I'm not going to be able to get over it just because one guy hit. Okay, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing Dallas Turner in the top 10. I can't believe we have him outside the top 15 on the big board. Thank you, Matty Kiwoom. He's so good at this. I think that the Falcons could also consider cornerback, right? Kenyon Mitchell would be a good pick there. Edge rusher.
Quinyon Mitchell tore up the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, Latu, I think would be a great pick as well.
He's scary because of medicals, but if your medical team clears him, he's, I think, the best edge rusher in this class.
Byron Murphy, I think those are all better picks than Dallas Turner. Oh my God. Okay, that's fine. Let's say that they stick. They're not going to. They're going to trade back. So they're going to trade back with who to get Neighbors? Who's going to trade up to get Neighbors at 8?
It's a fun. God. Who has the capital and would actually want to move that far? That's the thing. That's what I'm worried about if I'm Atlanta, is that they're going to be locked into picking at 8. They're just not going to get the return.
What about the Broncos?
The Broncos
not reporting. Jerry Jeudy's gone.
The Broncos want a DB.
Okay, so the Broncos want a DB. So you think the Atlanta Falcons might not have a market for Neighbors? What? No way. What?
Well,
Jacksonville could really use Neighbors.
I mean,
Jacksonville's picking at 17.
That's it's a lot to give up to go up 9 spots. Like,
this is a make or break season for Trevor Lawrence,
Well, the question that I have functionally is, are you worried if you're the Bears at 9, you're not worried that one of Neighbors, Odunze, won't be there. So you have no reason to move up. You'll just take whichever one doesn't go there. If you're,
wow. So they would do that? They wouldn't just go offensive line and solidify their offensive line?
Reports are that they like Dallas Turner. Like,
oh my God.
What? I know.
Just go Fontenot.
I don't.
What? I can't believe they wouldn't just take best offensive lineman available. That is such the chalk move if you're the Bears.
Well, if you're the Bears, then Rome Odunze is there at 9. I mean, it's hard to not read the tea leaves there. Like they love Joe Alt, but Joe Alt's not making it to 9.
You think they're just going to stockpile talent at wide receiver?
I think that's the idea.
Not protect the guy that's going to be throwing to the receiver? I mean, again, that's backwards.
Well,
until your offensive line is solidified, you don't go dabbling on wide receiver, especially if it's already a strength.
But the grades aren't going to be the same, Matt. The grade that they have on Odunze versus the grade that they have on whatever it's Troy Fontenot or Taliese Fuaga is not going to be comparable.
But that's also the point I made earlier.
Yeah,
right?
And
the idea that one of these slaters is going to be available to you is typical, is wishful thinking, right? Yeah. So you think, okay, so that's where. So Atlanta could stick, and it sounds like multiple teams are now in on. Wow, multiple teams are in on Dallas Turner as a top 10 pick. So let's say Atlanta is forced to make the pick because they can't find a trading partner. They just go Turner, and that's just one of the classic bust edge rush picks at 8 I've ever. I mean, it's just so bullseye bust pick. Oh my God! So they'll do it though. So Atlanta, Dallas Turner, Chicago then has Malik Neighbors fall to him.
Yep,
Then
it's either Neighbors or Odunze, whichever they prefer. Which, I mean, I have no idea how they have them ranked, one or the other. Take
okay, no, let's actually throw a curveball here. Let's mix it up a little bit. So let's say they go Odunze. Now the Jets are staring at Neighbors.
Do you go Neighbors? Do you go Brock Bowers? Because I don't. Did they ever in their wildest dreams think Neighbors would make it to them at 10?
See, I just thought these teams love players like Brock Bowers, and remember, Kyle Pitts went before Chase.
Yeah. So, and if we're looking at it this way, just kind of the way that we have it laid out, I believe they'd go Bowers.
Then we got Bowers to the Jets. So it is conceivable that one of these wide receivers actually slips out of the top 10
and makes it
then
to who?
falls right to Denver.
Falls to who?
Because isn't Minnesota, if they can't trade up, aren't they going quarterback there?
If Minnesota can't trade up, they're screwed.
Aren't they going to go Penix, or aren't they? Do they have any choice?
If Minnesota is stuck at 11, right? My assumption would be that their goal, if they can't get one of the top 4, is going to be to get Bo Nix at the end of round 1.
Okay, so they would get out. Okay, they would trade out of it. That would make sense. I mean, if I'm Minnesota, I'm trading the hell out of that pick on principle.
I think they're getting out of there, or they're taking a DB, one or the other.
Yeah, it would be nice if they could trade out of that pick. And, Jerry Jones might want to trade up, but they're no longer big swinging dicks in the draft anymore.
Not anymore, right? Man. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Green Bay hates trading, period. The Eagles like to move around.
I could see Howie moving.
Yeah, the Eagles like to move around. But again, if a wide receiver is available there, if somehow Neighbors or Odunze is available there, Jacksonville has to trade up. They have to.
I think Jacksonville moving up for Neighbors.
They have to trade up with the Vikings there. And then the Vikings can move back, and now they're at 17.
Yeah.
And then that would be a nice, comfortable place to take Knicks.
Well, I mean, I think they'd probably wait till they've Houston's pick at 25, 23, somewhere in there.
They have Houston's pick at 23. So then you think they would go corner. Okay, so that's what so Minnesota would trade back to 17 with Jacksonville. Jacksonville takes the receiver, and then Minnesota selects a cornerback, and then they go Knicks at the end of the draft, at the end of the first round.
I think that's how that would go down.
Wow. So when you look at the cornerback position on the NFL Draft Big Board, so they might be looking at Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yeah, I mean, they at 17, they'd hope that Quinion Mitchell is still there. I don't think he would be.
What?
Yeah, I don't think he would be. That's the hope. But it's, you have McKinstry. There are a couple.
I can see the Raiders going corner. And didn't you say that the Denver Broncos wanted to go corner as well?
Broncos want Terry and Arnold from Bama.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have Terry and Arnold right there with Kool-Aid. We have them adjacent on our big board.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
You're looking at like that trio is probably Nate Wiggins from Clemson, Cooper DeJean from Iowa, Kool-Aid McKinstry. However you have them ranked, they're all very similar in terms of like where where they are on relative big boards, but everybody's is different. So like overall player value is relatively similar, but teams value them very differently.
Do you have the prop on how many cornerbacks go in the first round?
I do not. I have
not. Are there any props that you like any first round props that you like?
First round props are notoriously weird. Like if you haven't bought into them yet, trying to buy into them now is kind of a saturated market. Like,
of course,
people have already.
Have you already locked in any first round props?
QB to go 1, 2, 3, 4 is a fun one. That was
a fun one.
What
does that pay?
I think it was like 9-1 a while ago before the McCarthy smoke happened. Just because I figured Arizona's open for business, and we know QB's going 1, 2, 3. They all need them. So like even if you're New England and you're teasing like Elliott Wolf just did this morning, oh, like, hey, we're open for business with our draft pick, dude. You need a quarterback. Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like you need a fucking quarterback badly. And Drake Mays do not grow on trees. So,
well, no, according to RC Fisher, they do. But so Denver Broncos, you think they go corner, Terry and Arnold, and then that leaves us with the Raiders. They have a lot of needs. Think the Raiders go Penix?
That's that's what we're hearing. Victor Four, who's as plugged into the Raiders as anybody, is hearing they love Michael Penix Jr.
Okay, so pencil that one in. Michael Penix Jr., the big Penix, to 13. Then the Saints. The Saints actually have their first round pick. Good for them. They haven't traded up yet. Good for them. They might actually pick or trade down, which would be so un-Saints like.
That's a tackle for sure. That's either Fuaga or it's Troy Fontenot. Take your pick.
It's Fontenot. So according to our board, Troy Fontenot would still be available. So then that would be the perfect pick for the Saints. I'm so glad they would do that. And then what about the Colts at 15?
There are so many ways they can go.
They need secondary.
It's Quinion Mitchell.
Secondary.
It's Quinion Mitchell.
I think that's where Quinion Mitchell goes.
Yeah, that would be a fun one. He's a fucking he's so much fun to watch as a player.
Yeah, and then with Julius Brents developing, I think that suddenly they can turn that secondary completely around. That would make sense. Now we've got the Seahawks at 16.
God, there's just so many ways they could go here.
A lot of needs. They could use corner. That's where Kool-Aid might go. There's a lot of options, but there's also someone's going to have to take, Liatu Latu. Someone's going to have to go edge, right? Someone was going to fall in love with Byron Murphy, right? The big tackle.
Yeah, Seahawks are a tough one because I mean there are just so many ways that they could go. Not because the roster is decimated or anything, but just because they have a lot of really good young football players all over the place.
Fuaga is 6'6", 335.
Oh yeah, he's a big boy. He moved people. I don't know how many people watched our Beavs this year. Shout out Oregon State. But I mean, he moved people. He was a road grader right there.
That's the move. If they're going to go optimal pick, I think that's the move.
Yeah,
I don't trust them to do that. I think that maybe more likely they go with a guy like Byron Murphy.
Let's just give him Byron Murphy. Why not?
I think they're going to go, but that feels like a very Seahawks pick to go Byron Murphy. And then did we talk about Jacksonville moving up? Did we
Vikings moving down? And it's
we banked that already. So that's actually now, according to our board, that's the Vikings pick.
Yep. And that's probably either Kool-Aid or Cooper DeJean, one or the other.
Right, so they're going to go Kool-Aid there. Perfect. What is Cincinnati at 18? They don't trade much. They like to stick and pick.
This is kind of worst case scenario.
Edge rusher, right? Aren't they going to go Latu?
I mean, this is worst case scenario for them because they want tackle. They want tackle or they want Bowers. But
actually, according to our board, I don't think Fuaga went.
No, he went.
We said
he not?
We said that Murphy was going to go to the Seahawks.
Yeah, then Fuaga.
Fuaga's going to go to the Bengals.
You can run that pick to the podium if he's there.
Yes, Fuaga to the Bengals at 18 is perfect. What about the Rams at 19? Rams are at 19.
I would either say it's going to be wide receiver or offensive tackle, one or the other. I could see them, just the way this board has fallen kind of takes some guys out of it, sadly, that I would love to see them have. But, best wide receiver available, best tackle available, either or. It's Sean McVay's first round pick as Rams head coach.
You think he's going to chase Xavier Worthy? Think he's going to go Xavier Worthy? They need a field stretcher. Tutu Atwell's not doing the job.
I don't think it's going to be Worthy. If I had to guess, I could see like Adonai Mitchell. I could see God, there are just so many. That like late first, early second logjam of wide receivers are all so fucking good that like even if you just draft at the end of that tier, you're still going to get a hell of a player, whether it's like a Ricky Pearsall, Lad McConkey, Jalen Polk, whoever among that group.
You got like a Graham Barton though possibility at a Duke.
Yeah,
I could see
Graham Barton would be a good one.
I could see that's just based on how McVay very white, Graham Barton very white, right? I just think
default white guys.
I just think default Duke tackle to McVay makes a lot of sense. I just think
we can do that.
I think it really does. Steelers, this is an interesting pick here at 20.
Good Lord.
I think they're just going to go edge rusher. I think they're going to look up and they're going to say, hey, we love Jared Verse.
We have Latu's there.
Is Latu still there? Latu could fall. Remember how in previous years we've had edge rushers fall? There's some edge rushers
that will not have him on their board, just so you know. medical wise. Yeah, their team.
All right, so Latu is going to go to the Steelers. They're going to have their medical team look at him. He's going to remember. Nolan Smith fell all the way to Philadelphia at 31.
Oh, yeah, 31,
and
32.
And he was mocked in the top 10 at a lot of places. So Latu to the Steelers, I think makes sense. Dolphins, I've heard Xavier Worthy. Is that even real? Could they do that?
Please
they just want to have like an overindulgence of speed?
Mike McDaniel's building a 4x1 team.
No, let's do it though. Let's give Xavier Worthy just
for fun.
Because teams do crazy dumb stuff. Let's make it happen. Redundancy galore in Miami with Xavier Worthy. Eagles, they're moving. They're moving up or down. We don't know where they're going, but they're not going to be picking here. We know that. Yeah. They never pick here. Nope. So, who do you think would want to move up to that spot? Who do you think how he's talking to on the phone? The Cowboys? Think the Cowboys want to move up 2 spots?
For who? Though?
You think the Bills want to move up? Think the Bills love a receiver? Think they love Adonai Mitchell? They're going to move up, try to get him there?
That'd be a fun one. Yeah, we can give the Bills Adonai
Bills
Mitchell.
Move up. Bills trade with the Eagles to get Adonai Mitchell. I think that makes sense. Minnesota at 23, they get Bo Nix. They get their quarterback. Now there's going to be that's 6 quarterbacks in the first round, right? Yep. Is that a prop?
I'm sure it's available somewhere. I haven't personally looked.
Must be. I'm assuming that's the number is 6 or 5.5, whatever. Dallas Cowboys. Interesting, right? Interesting. Not a lot of needs.
No,
not a lot of needs. Don't know what Jerry's thinking, but it's not Jerry anymore. It's his son.
Shout out Stephen Jones.
Stephen Jones. God. I wish his name was Jerry Jr. Shouldn't it be Jerry Jr.?
Triple
it would be
J?
so much better if it would be JJJ. Yeah, I think they just go chalk and they just go Byron Murphy. Or no, Byron Murphy we sent to Seattle.
Byron Murphy's gone.
So Byron Murphy's gone. I think they go defense. Jared Verse. They don't really need edge though.
That's the weird part here. It's like that roster's pretty built.
I know. Do you think they would go? How about a cornerback like Cooper DeJean?
That fits right in.
Maybe defensive tackle Chop Robinson.
One or the other. You can give him either way.
I think we'll give him Chop Robinson. I think they're going to go Chop Robinson. And then the Packers. Packers are going to go defense. Actually, you know what? Let's give them Cooper DeJean because the Packers would go Chop Robinson all day.
Yep.
The Packers
fun player.
Love to get. That's such a Packer move to go Chop Robinson.
It is a very Packer.
Then what? With the Buccaneers at 26, what do you think they're doing? What are they thinking? They could use offensive line.
They're basically full reset at this point.
Yeah, they need foundational pieces. So we like J.C. Latham at offensive line.
Do you know who we haven't mentioned yet?
Who?
Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver from LSU.
Oh, yes. With their aging wide receivers, that's where he's going. Where he's going.
Way later than I think he's going.
Yeah, Brian Thomas, because we had Adonai Mitchell. I think that so many teams think basic. They're like, we got to replace a guy like Diggs with a guy that looks like Diggs. That's why we went with Adonai Mitchell to the Bills trading up there. So I think that Tampa, it makes too much sense for them to go Brian Thomas. That's perfect. Now Arizona gets to use that Texans pick. Who are they using the Texans pick on at pick 27?
That's where you take Amarius Mims, the tackle from Georgia, and now you have him and Paris Johnson Jr. as your tackles for a decade.
That's incredible. Do you think J.C. Latham's going to be in the first round, or are we reaching on him? Is that one of our sleepers?
Him and Jackson Powers Johnson, it's guard, just where they're going to play. I mean, you could see them sneaking into the back end of the first round. It's just that's more of a high floor pick, which
we haven't had a team just go, just break our hearts with middle linebacker. That's going to happen at some point. Someone's going to go Peyton Wilson
in round 1. God, I hope not.
You don't think so?
No.
Stranger things, man.
Stranger things have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of good interior linemen. Jackson Powers Johnson, as you mentioned.
Love his game. He's
Tavontre Sweat. What about Tavontre Sweat? That guy's 366.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think someone's going to take a chance on Sweat. I'd love to see Sweating in the desert. How about Sweat to the Cardinals?
I like it.
I think that makes sense, right? So they already have they have Harrison. They've addressed the big need. I think that they're not enamored with any of the offensive linemen there, and I think they go upside. They go
Okay.
upside there. We talked about the Bills traded up with the Eagles, so the Eagles are now picking at 28. Who are the Eagles picking at 28?
It's just that they have an embarrassment of riches, dude. It's like,
I know, it's amazing.
like
So they
like
can
do
just
you
do
want
whatever
to
they want.
do you
Think they're
want to
just going to
take
go? I
like
think they're just going to go offensive lineman. They're going to go to a tackle or guard.
you could go Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma at tackle. You could go Nate Wiggins, DB from Clemson. You could go
Okay, they're going. Yeah,
Jordan
they'll
Morgan.
go Wiggins. I think they go Wiggins. So they'll go, I can't believe we're doing a mock draft show. I didn't even realize it. We just sort of stumbled into this that we're doing a mock draft show. But
This
I
was
love
not
it.
planned at all.
No, we didn't plan this, but this is what we're doing because we're on Player Profiler, and then the draft order is so easy. So pick 29, the Lions. Hopefully they can correct it. Remember, the Lions have had 3 bad picks in a row where they went field stretcher, right? Then they went middle linebacker, and then they went running back, right? Those are all just like poor process picks. As good as Gibbs is, it's a poor process pick. So
Do you know who
the Lions have really struck out.
You know who I'd love to see them take? The pick that I want the Lions to make, that I hope the Lions make, is the defensive tackle Johnny Newton out of Illinois. There are medical concerns, and you need to get that checked out because I guess he has I can't remember if it's a foot or whatever the issue is at the moment.
Okay.
But you want to talk about a motherfucker that is glass eater. I mean,
yeah, we love Jerzon Newton.
I mean, he is a freak.
Okay, he's going.
Yes.
I think that it's a Big Ten player. I think it's a Campbell type player. He's eating glass. I think that's it. I think he's Newton to the Lions all day.
Love it.
Then the Ravens. The Ravens are going to go chalk as they always go chalk. So who's the chalk pick for the Ravens here?
Jordan Morgan, the tackle from Arizona.
Okay, so they're just going to go tackle from Arizona. Jordan Morris, why not? And then we have San Francisco at 31.
God, I think that this is a trade out.
Okay.
I think this is a trade out.
They should trade down on this.
The Panthers want a wide receiver.
Okay. So the Panthers are trading up. Who are they drafting at wide receiver?
That's the question, right? Are
they going to go McConkey there?
Who do we have left on our board that makes sense?
We only have McConkey, and then Keon Coleman.
I think it's Ladd. If that's what's left, yeah.
Okay, so the 49ers trade out of the pick 31 with the Carolina Panthers just to trade back a few picks. They want to get back into the first round. They're worried that Kansas City might draft McConkey because of the Rashee Rice. Oh, this makes so much sense. All right. So, yes, the Carolina Panthers want to jump the Chiefs to steal McConkey, and then who do the Chiefs select?
This is my favorite mock draft pick that I'm stealing. Shout out to my guy, Peter Schrager. This is one of my guys. When we update the site, this will be one of my guys. He's a wide receiver from Washington. It's Jalen Polk.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.